right candidate, because this is a guy who's getting it done. The only thing he needs more than what he's got now is a new governor, Rebecca Kleefisch. And Jason Church, thank you for your service. I want to thank you and any of the others here who are veterans of our great nation. Let's give all our veterans a great round of applause. In fact, I'm going to go off script for a moment because I can't talk about veterans and stand next to the flag without asking you to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance before we say anything more. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In fact, I'm going to leave you with one tip the next time we say the pledge. There's no comma under one nation, under God. So don't take a pause. Okay? But having said that, I am absolutely thrilled to be here to endorse the next governor of the great state of Wisconsin, Rebecca Kleefisch. I'm all in for Rebecca for governor. I'm going to tell you why, but I'm going to add one more thing to what Senator Bradley said about a state of denial. Evers has been in a state of denial since last Tuesday, but what we've seen for the last 3 years is Tony Evers is not up for the job. He's just not up for the job. Kind of like Joe Biden. They're just not up for the job. What is Tony Evers? He is not up for the job. We need to repeat that over and over again. What is Tony Evers? Not up for the job. Right? You can see it. We do it early on. But I think during the lockdown, when one point I was doing an interview and I said, he's actually hiding out in his bedroom. And my wife said, actually, we've been in that bedroom. We know that he is hiding out in the bedroom. The video was from there. So whether it was Joe Biden in the basement, he got the idea from Tony Evers hiding out in the bedroom. I'd say it's time to send him back to a different bedroom in Madison than the governor's residence and put Rebecca Kleefisch there. Because she'll not just be in Madison City all around the state. Give the job to her. She's up for the job. Let me tell you a little bit why. I've known Rebecca for a long time. I first got to know her, as many of you did here in southeast Wisconsin, when she was on TV exposing the waste and the fraud and abuse in government. She'd interview me all the time. She'd say, hey, Scott, tell me what's going on with this. How can they possibly be doing these crazy things on all this welfare stuff and this and that? Tell me what's going on there. I need to expose that to the people here in southeastern Wisconsin. And then not long after that, when she decided that she wanted to leave broadcasting, and her and Joel raised their 2 wonderful children and started a small business, she was one of the first public officials, or not officials at that time, she was in office, one of the first public figures, I should say, who was out front and joined many of us here in the Tea Party movement. Long before taking office, she was one of the first public figures in the state of Wisconsin at those Tea Party rallies. Holding people accountable. And after people would hear there, and there was a number of folks I remember saying, you know what? You've talked to people. You've got a name that people are aware of. You've got a voice that's a conservative voice. You need to run. And she ran for lieutenant governor of the state of Wisconsin against the establishment. Woo! There were a lot of good candidates, but one in particular had almost all the support of people who were Catholic Minnesotans. He's actually a good guy. I like him. But he was the insider choice. Yep. Rebecca Kleefisch ran against the establishment, and she won. How did she do it? To the grassroots, just like she's going to win governor of the great state of Wisconsin. Now, all that's impressive, that we like Rebecca so much, unlike the previous governor. Some of you may not know this, but Jim Doyle disliked the lieutenant governor before Rebecca so much so they actually put a bookcase in front of the entrance that would go from the lieutenant governor's office into the governor's office and upstairs. On the very first day, we moved the bookcase, we opened up the door, and we said, we've got an incredibly valuable team member here. We not only want her in our office, we want her across the state. And I got to tell you, during our 8 years, there was no one who advocated for job creators and jobs being created in the state of Wisconsin than Rebecca Kleefisch. She was and will be and continues to be our jobs ambassador. And you heard this before from the other speakers, but I got to tell you, a lot of times year ago, when people were all hyped up in Washington, D.C. about what happened that January, I said, hey, a couple hours? About a month worth of people occupying your state capitol. And they didn't just do it initially over Act 10, but we passed literally every major conservative reform in the nation happened in a blue state that we temporarily made purple. And throughout that time, they didn't just issue death threats against me and my family. They did against Rebecca and her family and state lawmakers. And remember this, we did not back down. Rebecca did not back down. Even though in the very midst of those battles, she was fighting cancer. I can remember still sitting right next to her in the cabinet room with that bag, with the chemo, and all the treatments dealing with cancer along the way. You'd never know it, because she was in that fight. She didn't back down. If she could fight cancer in the midst of those battles years ago, you know how hard she's going to fight for the good peace and freedom of the state. I'll never say there's anyone who's less of a fighter, more of a fighter than Rebecca Kleefisch. Any of you who ever fought cancer, anyone who's ever had someone in your family fighting cancer, know how hard that was. She put her cancer aside to fight for you. Every one of you in this state, she will always fight for you. We need a fighter as our next governor, not someone who's not up for the job, but someone who will fight hard for your job every single day. And so that's why I'm so proud to be here today. You know, sometimes it should be nicer, but don't let that fool you. Don't let that fool her. If somebody's messing with Wisconsin, she's messing with the hardworking taxpayers, don't let that fool you. She will fight back and defend each and every one of us who want the best interest of the state. And there's probably no better example these days than taking back our schools, right? Taking back our schools. We saw it last year when my friend Glenn Youngkin, how about Glenn Youngkin? We saw that last debate. You can't make this stuff up. Actually, Terry McAuliffe was so cocky, he said out loud what they say quietly. You know, what people like Tony Evers and that think, he actually said out loud, but he said, well, parents shouldn't have anything to do with the kid's education. I don't know about all of you, but as a parent, or any of your parents or grandparents, you're damn straight we should have something to do with our kids' education. We are the primary person who should be responsible for our children's education, and no one's going to take that away from us. And I got to think just like it was in the Commonwealth of Virginia, it's true here in the state of Wisconsin. I said the simple message from last November was, don't piss off parents. Right? I don't care if you're a conservative parent, or you're a Republican parent, or an independent parent, or just a discerning Democrat. Parents do not want elitists telling them what they can and can't do, whether it comes to education or the health care decisions about their children. Parents should be in charge of their children's life, not the government. Rebecca's got a plan to take back our schools. But that's not enough, as you heard from Senator Bradley. I mean, I think about not just Madison. I think about Kenosha, our beloved Kenosha. Literally burnt to the ground. If it hadn't been for Donald Trump after the third day, I think it'd still be burning right now. Because Tony Evers was hiding out in his bedroom wondering what to do. You don't wonder, you send the National Guard in right away, you take action, it's a deterrent. You don't let things like that happen. She's got a plan to support our law enforcement. No more defunding the police. It's time to defend the police and put more men and women on the streets to clean up the state of Wisconsin. And as you heard, she was our jobs ambassador. She's going to take that to the next level and help create more jobs, not through the government. Because unlike people like Tony Evers, Rebecca understands that government doesn't create jobs. People create jobs. And she's got a plan to put in place a better environment for the job creators of this state to not only create more jobs, but better paying jobs for the hard-working men and women of this state. That's yet another reason why we need Governor Rebecca Kleefisch. All those things, plus the long list you heard about. Rebecca and I were part of the most conservative administration in the history of the state, and at that time, for those 8 years, the most conservative administration in the entire country. God bless him. I love Ron DeSantis, but Ron DeSantis got his ideas from the state of Wisconsin. You want to know Ron DeSantis of Wisconsin? Rebecca Kleefisch was the candidate you needed in this primary general election. You want election integrity? You need a governor who's going to stand up and push that and get it through the state legislature so that it's easy to vote but hard to cheat, which is what it should have been in the past and will be in the future. You want a state where we can be proud again, where we can be prepared to keep our children from moving out elsewhere to get opportunity and freedom, but instead have it here in the state of Wisconsin. There is no other choice in this primary, and there's no other choice in the general election than Rebecca Kleefisch for governor of the state. Let's give a big round of applause for the next governor of the great state of Wisconsin, Rebecca Kleefisch.
How about we give it up for Governor Scott Walker?
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate you. Julian, I appreciate you, and I cannot wait to see what we do together. Jason, I appreciate you, and God bless you for your tremendous service to our country. And friends here in Waukesha County tonight, I appreciate you. How many of you are ready to fire Tony Evers? Jerry, thank you for being here representing Vietnam veterans. Javier, thank you. You're going to cast your first vote for governor for the person who is going to keep us free in the state of Wisconsin. Doesn't it feel good to be 18 and be able to vote? Friends, I appreciate all of you who are here because you care about your kids' schools. How about that Tuesday night? Raise your hand if you are a school board candidate. Raise your hand if you fought for school boards on Tuesday. Raise your hand if you're going to take back your school board in April. Thank you, God. I love to see the pissed off parents. I love to see the mama badgers here tonight. Because, friends, Tony Evers has failed us. The governor's right. He's just not up for the job. We need to get back to work, and Tony Evers and Joe Biden's economy is completely unaffordable. I went to the grocery store, $315 for groceries for 3 people because one of my kids is in Texas, a no-income tax state. Friends, despite the fact that a lot of Wisconsinites got a 5 to 7% raise last year, did you know that we all took about a 2.4% pay cut because of Joe Biden and Tony Evers' unaffordable economy and hyperinflation? We got to get back to work, but we also have to get back to school. And I know so many of you are in this room tonight because you care deeply about making sure that your kids go to good schools with higher standards and they can finally do it mask-free. I am so sick of the patchwork of inequality across the state of Wisconsin. You guys know I'm on the road 12, 16 hours a day every single day. I take one day off a week, and it's basically so I can do laundry. So my family has clean underwear. Does not make headlines of their own. But the reason I spend so much time across the state of Wisconsin is so I can hear from people what I've heard from moms and dads, grandmas and grandpas, is that there are kids still going to school wearing masks. There are kids still going to school who are unable to play interscholastic sports. There are kids still going to school who are contact quarantines, missing weeks and weeks and weeks. And if we have learned one thing from this 2-year experiment with virtual exclusive learning, it is that it is wrong, it is bad, and it has failed. buying two guns. This man has the audacity to ask you for a contract extension. He should be hanging his head in shame. It is a disgrace to the state of Wisconsin. And let me tell you, as your governor, I will get us back to school. And our kids will have the choice of whether they ever have to wear a mask. And friends, our education dollars will actually follow a child's education and not going to real class. We have a true universal school choice for you and your kids. You pick. You pick what's best for your kids. And P.S., you should know what's being taught in your child's classroom. You heard that Julian Bradley and all of his friends in the legislature, they're fighting for school transparency. So many of us watched our kids on their Chromebooks with, it sounded like Charlie Brown's teacher talking because the connections were so bad, guys. I mean, virtual learning was harmful, it was no good, but what it did was expose a lot of us to what our kids are actually learning and what they are actually seeing. And we need to know what our kids are learning and seeing. The same day, Tony Evers had the audacity to veto 5 pro-life bills. He also had the audacity to veto education transparency. As your governor, you will know what is being taught in your child's school, and it will be critical thinking skills and not critical race theory. You will ban the teaching of hate in the state of Wisconsin. You gotta get back to school. Thank you, baby Lincoln. But it's not only that. And Tony Evers' excuse for shutting schools down was to prevent the spread of COVID-19. But one of the things he fails to acknowledge there is if you are a child in Wisconsin today, you are likelier to die a murder victim in Milwaukee than of COVID-19. This is sad and this is tragic, but we have to crack down on the violent criminals, throw them away, and throw away the key. Tony Evers is completely unserious. We must back back. You think this is common sense because violent crime has risen 9% year over year in this state. It is not just in Milwaukee. You think Milwaukee can contain the crime wave that Tony Evers has ushered in? Pandering to far leftists in his party? To nothing when they clamor to defund the police, and we beg to defend the police. There is a reason I've been endorsed by the Fraternal Order of Police, the Milwaukee Police Association, and more than half of Wisconsin's sheriffs. There is a reason I am on this choice side. And it's because I believe we need to stand with the brave men and women who stand on the thin blue line and protect all of us. And it's about time Tony Evers left the youth doesn't get it. There are more cars stolen in Milwaukee than in Chicago now. It's almost unbelievable, except for the fact that we actually see it with our own eyes. As your governor, I will put 1,000 more cops on the streets of Wisconsin. As your governor, Wisconsin State Patrol surge where violent crime is surging. They are already trained in local law enforcement. And friends, we will do real bail and sentencing reform so we stop allowing the bad guys and rap sheets and mile long out on our streets. We gotta back to back. You also know that we've got to give government back to the people.
Right.
Now, when the governor and I would sit at the big long conference table in the governor's conference room, the two of us would sit at the head of the table, and right above my seat was the most beautiful piece of art in the state capitol. And I'm sure you're probably guessing that it was a painting of some sort or one of those cool mosaics. It wasn't. It was just a very simple painting of woods. And it said this: "The will of the people is the law of the land." We need to remember that. I think that they painted that there to remind people like us to remember who we work for. Because, friends, I work for you. When mandates in the state of Wisconsin. As your governor, we will make sure there are no vaccine mandates. I love you guys. But it also means we must protect the integrity of Wisconsin's elections. And right now, we're in danger. We're in danger of people just walking away from free and fair elections because they no longer believe they are free and fair. I have said that when I am elected your governor, I will abolish the WEC. But it doesn't end there. You know, your great legislative majorities have already passed a whole bunch of bills that would restore election integrity to the state of Wisconsin. But what do you think? After those have passed both houses, Tony Evers have done with those bills once they make it to his desk. What do you think he did with those?
No.
Clearly vetoed them. As your governor, I will sign those bills. We will ban those unconstitutional ballot drop boxes. We will stop ballot harvesting in the state of Wisconsin. No special voting deputies are going back to watch those elections in nursing homes. We will have free and fair elections again in the state of Wisconsin. We got to be able to trust your elections. And just this week, we said there must also be a check on the accountable office that will administer these elections. We announced that there will be, underneath our Department of Justice, a department that is solely responsible for assuring that there is actual charging and prosecution of the bad guys who are trying to commit voter fraud. We will purge those voter rolls of non-voters and dead voters. And we will audit vote before and after. I am sick to death of chasing the tail of elections. We must prevent the fraud before it starts, and this is how we do it. We must have elections in 2019. Now, you guys know that we got a few months before this thing is over. And in those months, you know that it's politics. There's going to be mudslinging, and there will be people who tell lies. In fact, the lies have already begun. I see you've heard some. Tony Evers right now has an ad on TV in Green Bay, in Milwaukee, and in Madison. Friends, why would Tony Evers have to air a negative TV ad about me in his home base of Madison, Wisconsin, unless he is absolutely terrified of losing his backyard of Madison, Wisconsin? He needs to shore up his own home base. You know, they put out a share graphic the other day. It had my face on it. Lovely vintage 2010 picture, by the way. Thank you, Democrat Party of Wisconsin. And it had these words. Number one threat.
You betcha.
There is a reason we, all together, are Tony Evers' number one threat. And you can't believe, shockingly, you can't believe everything you read on the internet or everything you see on TV. And sometimes they aren't going to be the only ones. There are going to be people, even from what feels like inside our own movement, who will tell lies. So let me just remind you of who I really am, because there are going to be people who just make stuff up. I am the friend of these three men, and each of them told their own stories. I'm a friend of every single one of you in this room. I am the woman who was a Tea Party speaker and mom of two little ones when I first ran for lieutenant governor against, Scott, the establishment candidate. In fact, 5 of them at one time. I was running against 5 men in the primary. And I was voted first off of my own state party's endorsement ballot at the convention. I wasn't exactly the pick of the litter for the Republican Party. But like Scott said, I'm a fighter. And just weeks after I was voted off of the endorsement ballot, I was diagnosed with colon cancer. It had already broken through my colon wall and was moving up toward my liver. A couple of weeks after, I had to be taken for emergency surgery. It was 2 weeks before my September primary election when I was taken for surgery, and it didn't go awfully well, the healing part at least, and finally election day itself was there. And I begged my surgeon to let me leave, let me go and vote for myself. And I said he should too. And he finally relented and let me out just in time. So I did get to the polling place and I did vote for myself. And then I got to my victory party and I beat all of those men by 21 votes. Chemotherapy and became the only lieutenant governor in national history to face a recall, then the only lieutenant governor in national history to be elected twice in my own first term. I am still the mom of 2 daughters, and I desperately want them to be able to come back here to Wisconsin to one day raise their families. I am still the driver of a minivan. I'm still a fiscal. Are you giving me a thumbs down for driving a minivan? No.
I've been in the minivan.
It's a very excellent vehicle. I am still thrifty like that, driving my thank you. Kids love it. Friends, I am the one who has the vision, the ability, and the will to take back control of this state and give it back to you all. Thank you so much for being here.